Hello and welcome back to Downloadable Content. With me, as always, of course, is we have the Baron from the Warp Frog team. If you guys don't know what Warp Frog is, they create Blade and Sorcery. Hi, Baron. How are you?
Hello, mate. Grand here. Just super crushed by the 1.0 release, but all good.
Good. We're hoping to crush you further. If you guys didn't know, we do this once a season. As often as big news comes out about Blade and Sorcery, we will have like a meeting with Baron and talk about stuff. So the latest, Baron, you dropped news, right, the other day, month, week? When was this? Was that the start of the last week or something, Saturday?
It feels, yeah, man, my brain is much. I think it was just last week, and perfect timing because you had messaged me saying, hey, you want to get together, have a chat? And I was like, yeah, hold off a few days.
Yeah.
Because I knew this news was going to drop, and then it would have some nice new juicy stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and the reason I had poked you the other day is because people kept yelling at me to poke you.
Yeah.
And they're like, can you ask Baron? And I was like, I will ask Baron, yes. So, great timing is together. You know, I've already done like a breakdown of this one, but it's great to have Baron here so we can kind of ask them questions that I've gathered from the community as well as talk about this stuff. So, let's kick things off. Baron, you said you're working hard on 1.0. It's crunch time. In summation, can you give us just like a brief, if you were to break down everything in a single sentence, all your news in one sentence from Saturday, what can you say?
I would say it's massive. It's
massive.
so much bigger than any past update we've ever done. It's like we've dropped a whole new game on top of our old game as an update. It's madness. It keeps me up at night, you know, from a marketing point of view, because it's like maybe this should have been another game. But hey, man, it's 1.0. You know, Cosby, the whole team, we wanted to go out with a bang. Progression mode, it was something fans have wanted forever.
Yeah.
So hey, let's do it. But dude, it's stressful. It's so much work, and you know it's been going on for ages now. You know, development. So we really want to just get it out to players now. By the way, just a little segue, just to mention, if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll always be glad to come back and post it as a comment, because sometimes you have good questions that I just don't know, and I have to go ask. Whoever on the team is working on it.
Excellent.
So just want to mention.
Cool. Well, so you mentioned it's keeping you up at night, and you fear that it should have just been a different game. Can I ask why you fear that? Do you fear that just because it's the end, or because, like we said in your last interview, there was a lot that went into the road to Blade and Sorcery just to get it to U12, and you stitched it together because you guys have been working on this since 2017, 18, you know?
Yeah, and Cosby in 17.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you kind of like, you guys have spaghettied it to get it where it is right now. So is that what the fear is, or is it just the fear that it's at the end now and you guys are releasing a final product?
No, man, neither of those things. The spaghetti is annoying, and the end of development is sad just because we all love Blade and Sorcery. But no, it's just the terror is just because it's a stupid amount of work. It was just a stupid amount of work. It was like, it sounds easy, just adding a progression, but we wanted to put a lot more into it. It's not just like what can I say? Like, it's not just like a UI screen, like you have leveled up, right? Like there's a lot of VFX in there, there's new environments, all sorts of good surprises in there. And it was hard too, because it was like, it's a sandbox game that wasn't designed for this. So we had to kind of work backwards. Like, how do you make a progression mode that's not gamey? And it was just like constant, like, just battle with ourselves, because game design have just a nightmare, to try and think about how do you do this. The game that's not gamey, and you don't want to be gamey because you don't want to lose Warp Frog's identity. But at the same time, okay, what the hell do you do? So I think we got it. I think we came up with something just perfect. But yeah, man, it's just a ton of work. So it's like we put, my God, what is it? It's coming up to a year now on just Crystal Hunt development.
Yeah.
So, you can imagine for a studio, dude, that's a lot. 30 people on the team just working on a free update. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But as I say, this was the final love letter update for the community. So we wouldn't have even had a game if it wasn't for the fans who bought the game in early access. So it was like, okay, we're gonna go all out.
Well, I mean, that's awesome.
That's where
As
we
I
are.
could tell
Yeah.
from, I mean, honestly, from this news itself, as I can tell just from like the gifts that you had put together and everything, and what you are showcasing from the player, the first one holding like the first crystal shard, which I briefly want to talk about is, if you can't say it, I understand, but it doesn't. It almost looks like the player is on the player home if it has been redesigned again, or is this like the entryway into the shop, or is this another room in the traditional outpost? Like where are you standing in this first GIF?
A little surprise for you. I'll leave it for a little
Okay,
surprise.
so we're a little surprised. We'll pass that one then.
Yeah, Cosby actually, I filmed that GIF, and then Cosby looked at it and he's like, you know what? I think we can do something a little better.
Okay, so then answer me this question with this GIF right here. So
yeah,
I could tell, are either you, Cosby, or was it Sushin is your guys level designer for the most part?
yeah. No, he's actually game design.
Game design. Who is the level designer again?
Vin. It used to be Sushin used to be level designer for Onward. That might be what you're thinking.
Oh, okay. All right, so I digress. But what I'm looking at right here, whomever created this one, or Cosby or you, did you guys play Diddy Kong Racing? I know this sounds weird. Did you play Diddy Kong Racing?
I did not. I
Okay.
can't say for the other guys.
Are you sure? Do you see it almost? You're not looking at the same thing I'm looking at, but
Yeah.
it almost looks like the crystal you're standing in front of, like a dragon's mouth or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Okay, all
yeah.
right. Well, I'll see. I'll wait.
That is not a that was I remember when they were making that. They wanted to do something that looked cool. That was it's as simple as that. There's no conspiracy about it. They just wanted it to look cool.
So no Diddy Kong Racing reference.
I'll
just
definitely
crazy.
ask. I'll definitely ask, because you never know what they might have been inspired by. But I don't think so.
Okay. Well, the next GIF you show is clearly the player looting an openable chest. You have an iron ingot. You have, like, I don't know what the other thing is, and there's a potion in there. So most of that stuff, aside from the potion, obviously you can loot the potion, but you can sell everything to what we're going to connect into next, right? So I'm the player. I've opened this up. I'm looting that stuff. I'm putting obviously my inventory, right?
Yeah, there's dude, just a little side note, the little statue I'm picking up, this is the kind of TLC that was put into the design. The little statue is of the king, like it's and like on the coins it has like the king's face and stuff like that of Erden. That's like small little design details that were put into the game that probably no one will know or appreciate, but on the art side, that's the kind of stuff they were doing, and I love it.
I mean, you
love
saying that now, I could clearly see it when you're picking it up now. Before, I thought it looked like a little bell or something, but now that you said it, it's like, wait a minute, I could see that on the other side of it. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's not so obvious that side, but on the other side you can see it's a little man. But yeah, man, looting in the game. So for that image, I picked the most obvious thing, like a treasure chest. But there's also loot on shelves and stuff like that. So like all those shelves have like clutter. There's also potential for loot there. And potion, even though it's in the chest there, it's actually pretty rare to find a good old potion.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But you can't buy them, obviously. And then there's lore too. That's the other thing you'd be looting.
Okay.
There's lore knocking around on shelves or whatever.
Well, and speaking of which, I remember if it was last interview or the one before, I don't remember, but in the original Outpost, you guys had added those doors that essentially led nowhere its placeholders. So now in Crystal Hunt progression mode, those doors, not that they don't lead anywhere, but would they lead to loot rooms now?
They just, oftentimes they can have loot, or maybe they won't have loot, or there's also loot hidden, or in places like that you want to think of, like say a place that might have a climb that is like, hey, there's a little like wood, what's the word, like place I could stand up there, and if you climb up you might be surprised.
Okay.
That kind of thing. Or on shelves just knocking around. That's
and what about like the classic video game? Did you guys somehow find a way to put loot inside of breakable barrels, or can I not expect that?
That was something I was wondering myself the other day. Not in breakables,
Okay.
but you can sometimes find it in things like open crates or like buckets or that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, not the classic, smash a crate open.
All right. Now then that begs the next question, because it always does, is there's a handle and you're opening this treasure chest. Is that treasure chest a liftable object that I can then smack someone with, or is it just like in the world attached to something else?
That is a good question. It is not a liftable object.
Okay.
And in fact, do you remember the old chests we used to have in the game that everyone used to be like, what the hell? You can't. So because it was so confusing, we actually removed all those old item chests out of the game.
Okay.
Because it was totally confusing, because you would see the chest and you'd be like, hey, chest. And then suddenly it's not interactable, but yet you can pick it up like an item. And it's like, what the hell? So we actually, we took those out. And by the way, not mentioned, this is a little exclusive for you, not in the video, not in my clip there, but we have a much better inventory system.
Oh.
It's way more intuitive. I mean, I won't go into too much. I'll let players find it themselves. But it's way more intuitive. It's immersive. It's it's gamey in the sense that, well, obviously it's an inventory. It's gamey, but not too gamey. So I think you'll like it. But the main thing is it's just so much better to use than the one we had before.
Well, I'm excited to see that one. And you want to know it before our next topic is going to be talking about the shop. But before we get there, since you mentioned it now, I'm going to bump up something else. Currently, you guys have a tutorial. So now progression mode coming out. How does the currently existing tutorial, how is that affected now with the launch of 1.0? Is it scrapped? Is it redone? Is it baked into somewhere else?
Yeah, man, that good question too. That it's scrapped. We have a whole new tutorial, and the new tutorial is actually the introduction to Crystal Hunt. It's like I mean, I don't want to say story like, but it's like there's a little narrative to it, and it like introduces the game in a narrative way and sets the scene for Crystal Hunt.
That's very cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Especially because Crystal Hunt is you becoming your character, right? And I guess if you can answer this, do you create your character, then go into tutorial, or tutorial, then go into character creation?
This is something I'm really excited about, and I dropped in the news because I realized I hadn't talked about this. So you create your character just like you would in Sandbox, and you can create a background to your character now. So you could choose to start off with, like a fire crystal or mind crystal, and that's kind of the mage you are, that kind of lowly mage. But we also have the ability that if you want a hardcore game, you could just choose no crystal. So you go in there with just literally nothing. And so you make that character, you design them, and then that's it. Your character is done. It's not like Skyrim, where you play a bit of the game and then you make your character. But ultimately, the tutorial finishes at the house, and you go from there. But it's kind of, you'll see. It's the setting the scene for Crystal Hunt.
I mean, that's very exciting.
Narrative element.
That is extremely exciting, because it, like you said, it's adding the additional story into that one, and it's good to know that there's the tutorial baked in. But it does beg the next question because I know in the news you also mentioned there's a permadeath quote unquote mode if you wanted to be super hardcore. Can the tutorial be skipped then for players that either don't care or have done it already? Yeah,
you can skip it.
Okay, cool.
Simple as that. And we try to include a lot of good options there. That philosophy, we don't tell you how to have fun. So just presets, easy, normal, and hard. But you can also customize it. So you can do things like, let's say the game wasn't hard enough for you, although I think people are going to be surprised when they get to the later levels. But let's say the game's not hard enough for you. You could have enemies do 200% damage or 50% damage. Or you could have the player does 200% damage. You can mess with it that way. You can have permadeath. Or you can have, doesn't matter if you die. Or you lose, I think it's gold on death or something like that. You can mess with it that way. You can have automatic translation of Dalgarian text, like how hard do you want that to be. And I think there was an option there for cheats if you like to play with the cheat menu, or if that's too tempting for you and you don't want to be tempted, you can turn that off, and so forth and so on.
Okay. That's really cool. It does add another question. I'm not going to ask it just yet because I want to get to this next piece before I forget. One of them is the next gift. It shows you picking up like a piece of lore in there, and like you said, you either can use a cipher if you wanted to, or you can have that instantly decoded. I wanted to know because it would have been obviously you guys didn't do it based off our previous conversation, but imagine everyone's been speculating that the release date is in this lore breakdown right here, and there's no cipher for it, and you were just cheeky about it and you put it right in there. Is that something you did?
No, I wish we had a release.
It wasn't like a Grand Theft Auto 6 thing and you put it right in there for people to discover.
No, but I wish it was. I
Okay.
would love it if we had a release.
I just wanted to put that one to rest. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about immensely last time, because it was up in the air, and I hope you can talk about it now, is the shop and how is that integrated into the progression mode? Is there an NPC in the shop? Can you steal from that? What's going on with the shop? I guess we'll just start there. What does the shop do?
So you may have noticed I never really talked about it.
Yes, exactly. So I'm trying to pin you down.
It is complete. I'll tell you that.
All right.
The reason I'm not talking about shop is because I kind of wanted the players to experience it for the first time themselves. It's not just a menu. It's probably a lot more than players are expecting. So I don't really want to spoil it. I'll tell you this much. It's a unique location. It's its own, the way you have the home map.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the shop map. So it's its own location. It's physical. As in, like, it's not like a book and you're just scrolling through and like, the sword. This is actually like you could take the sword from the shelf kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, what else did I say? But I was stealing. We went through lots of thoughts on what the stealing situation to be. In the end, we just decided the least gamey way of doing it was you just can't leave the shop with your stolen items. So kind of sucks because it kind of means you can't ever be a thief kind of person as a role player. But there was just way too many game design headaches about like, well, what can a player steal? Is there some system they can steal? And it's just like, you know what, this is insane. Like, so we just said, okay, you just can't leave.
Okay. Well, from the game design standpoint, I totally understand that, especially because you don't want to have accidentally created a pseudo warrant system like Grand Theft Auto 1 star to 5 stars. And you're like, oh no, now we have to add like this. But I can tell you that probably someone like Hugh Johnner will mod that into 1.0, 100%.
I hope he does. Dude, let me just tell you too, we literally talked about it. We talked about all these scenarios, like about, maybe, you steal stuff and then bounty hunters come after you and all this. It's like, it was getting so zany, and the amount of work was just like, so I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was Cosby or if it was Schubert from a game design. I can't remember who it was, but someone stepped in and was like, guys, like, this is
like, please don't do this to me.
Yeah,
like, please don't do this.
Yeah, we're spiraling so hard down the rabbit hole right now, and I was like, yeah, we just gotta focus. Like, this is insane.
I understand. All right, so now that we've talked about the shop, we can go backwards a little bit, because there's something that you said stood out to me, and that was like the level of difficulty. Now, this next part could have been my own fault, and if it is, I apologize in advance. I made 2 videos. I made one talking about the breakdown, and then I also made one discussing your guys' roadmap. I noticed on roadmap that 2 hand weapons were crossed out, right? So it's like, hey, not going to happen. I know I read your thing. It was like, hey, also not going to happen. You guys tried it. It looked weird. Not only did it look weird, it felt weird. The animations weren't there. It is what it is. So I'm not attempting to nail you to the cross on that one, but what I'm asking is, you said players will be surprised with the level of difficulty. Now, is it just where the level of difficulty is like, this dude has really heavy armor on and is hitting the player now at 500 times normal damage, or is it actual like, no, we found a way to make it even more difficult?
So it's the enemy never does artificial difficulty. So like the easiest guy or whatever hits just as hard as the toughest guy. So like, there's nothing gamey like that. It is all just straight up what it is. It's more difficulty in the sense that the last faction, the Eye, are just tougher. They're better equipped. They have more stuff they can do. Like, like I said to you before, you were asking like, is there going to be new AI animations? I was saying no, there's not. There's not new AI animations in the sense that it's like an overhaul to how the AI fights, but they can do more stuff like magic stuff.
Oh.
So you
So
may
when
be
you say
surprised.
that, like,
Yes.
I know I have so many questions that I'm not allowed to ask you right now, and I would say not allowed. I just know where
Yeah.
it's not going to go because
Yeah.
I remember in the past we talked like, imagine a mage merging the lightning spell is shooting at you, and you have to block it. So can I expect like crazy magic for them to do, like something that the player's like, what? Did they just shoot a
Mm,
storm at me?
no, not like Storm or anything like that, because it has to be within, reason of playability. But they have just more stuff in their arsenal. So
Okay.
I think you're going to be surprised. And I think the first time you get hit with stuff, you're going to be like, what the? Like it's going to shock you.
Speaking of
Um,
shock me, but not shock me, the opposite of shock, which is the gravity spell. Um, can they use the telekinesis grab on me yet? Is that a thing?
no. They can't do that. But if you can get imbued with telekinesis, like you can get hit with status effects,
Oh, that is cool.
which was not a thing. Jesus, actually, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't believe it was a thing in U12. I think that's a 1.0 thing. It's been so long since I played U12. I'm like forgetting every little thing in
Well,
1.0.
what's funny, it's been so long since you've played U12, but we have been
Yeah,
playing U12 for
I
so long,
know.
Baron.
I know, dude. And that's why it's so funny because like for us, we're playing and we're like, oh yeah. And then actually, I was talking to one of the guys today, and I don't know if this has ever been mentioned anywhere, but we were looking at Mod.io, and we were looking at one of the most popular mods, was Sushin's sound effects mod that
Yes.
adds like a bunch of, and it's like that just occurred to me. I don't know if I ever mentioned that in 1.0 we have like all new, like tons of new like dialogue and hurt effects and sound effects.
Oh, that's
And
excellent because I keep
yeah,
hearing the current NPCs just telling me that I never should have come
yeah,
here. So what you're
yeah.
saying is there's more
I
dialogue.
know. And death effects too. Like one of the jokes is that like there's 5 death sounds or whatever. So just a small little thing we threw in there. 1.0 is tons of new death effects. So you get like a whole spread of pain and death sounds and stuff, and it just adds immersion. But that's like the kind of thing that's like we're playing it so long we just forget it's even in there, and then someone says it. It's like, oh yeah, that is like a little thing that players will enjoy.
That's awesome. I'm a huge sound effect guy. I mean, your guys' last update added, the new music, and then you had like I forget what you
Mm,
call it, but like in the dungeon, like when you're striking someone, it makes it like that sound and everything, and
yeah.
so all that working together is going to be so fantastic, just from a player standpoint. And speaking of
Yeah.
which, things working fantastically is you finally let us know what the hell that damn obelisk in the player home does,
Yeah.
and some people were surprised. Other people were like, I knew it. But to
Yeah.
see the way the quote unquote menu works in there, especially for VR, is borderline breathtaking.
Cool.
How it comes out. I mean, granted, there's a UI that pops up. I feel like Lineker had his hand in there, but it needs to have that, right? Because you need to be like,
Yeah,
oh, is that
right.
something
Yeah.
I want? Like, do I really want my arrow to blow up in my hand or something with this skill? So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
looks really cool. You guys have
That
outdone yourself for there.
man, that's so great to hear. That's the fine balance between gaming and not gaming because
Mm-hmm.
the tree is real interesting. Like you're not getting the full impression even there because you have the crystal insertion, there's VFX for how it all comes out. You can tap around the orbs, they kind of float around. It's very physical. But when you pick up the orb, then you get that little screen, and there's a video tutorial showing you the skill. So that's kind of the balance between gaming and not gaming. But what you're not even seeing in that GIF, it's so much crazy work went into this, and this is the whole thing about Cosby being like a super perfectionist. But when each crystal has their own kind of like what's the word, like theme song for lack of a better word.
Oh wow,
And it's hard to describe, but let's say you insert one crystal, and let's say it's just a little riff like do do do
that's a great
do do
riff.
do, and then, yeah, and then you insert another crystal, and it has another sound, it's like do 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 or whatever. it was designed with such care that when you insert multiple crystals at the same time, they actually play a little song.
Oh man, just
You know, because like,
what blows my mind is that you guys are like, oh my god, 1.0, it's we have to get so much out, and then the minute detail of someone's like, hey man, I'm gonna add a theme song for every crystal you pick up. It's like son of a bitch, Baron.
Dude, it's Cosby. It's Cosby. He's a madman. But that's part of the genius. You know, he's
I
a
agree.
real perfectionist, and he sweats the small details like that. But that's what's great about it. You know, but that's what also keeps us up at night.
Yeah, I mean.
But yeah, dude, it was a ton of work was put into it, and that's why I didn't want to show it too early, because we had like dev art in there, and it was, you could see where we were going with it, but I wanted to wait till it at least looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, yeah, it looks very cool. That's the thing. That's what I want to let you guys know. It looks awesome, man. And from you know, I've been playing this game since you guys let us play it in 2018 or whatever, and you know, seeing where it came from and where it is, and I know how easy and tempting it is just to go into the Unity asset store and just say put this here, this works. And the fact that you guys don't do that, because I remember I read a comment and I didn't engage with it because I couldn't, didn't have the brain power. But you had mentioned in the previous news, the reason why the animation, quote unquote, overhaul 2 and stuff was dropped is you guys didn't hire a specific animator. And someone's like, you could just use like this AI thing to create animation and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you can do something like that, but is when you lose that personal touch of something, and and AI's helping with something, then you go in and say, okay, where can this fit in there? You know, it loses that Warp Frog literal touch of magic that I can see from these GIFs of just like, hey, when this crystal happens, it's gonna have a theme song and stuff. And I think, you know, if I trust you guys saying like, listen, if we couldn't do it, we didn't do it. So,
dude, thank you so much for saying that, because that's exactly right. It's like we don't go broad, we go deep. You know, so it's like, yeah, you can throw a load of things in, like animations from the asset store, and just slap a load of animation or asset store enemies or asset store levels and stuff like that. But it's like we try to sweat the small details and make sure that each little thing feels cool and looks cool, that the graphics are cool, that the handling is cool. So like, there's a million sword games out there, but Blade and Sorcery had great success, you know, like, and what is it? It's that obsessive kind of like just crazy perfectionist attention to detail that Cosby has. Like, he sweats that small stuff, and that's why it feels cool, you know. But at the same time, I totally understand what fans say, and I say too, like, about, man, I wish this could be Skyrim. You know, and it's like, yeah, of course, we all wish that, but I don't know, man. Like, we're a small studio now, but like, this is only game 1, you know? Like, you never know
game
where we're
2 is Blade and Sorcery multiplayer.
MMO. Game 3 is Blade and Sorcery Skyrim. Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to have NFTs in the game?
So we just have to stay on track and stay true to the studio values, you know? That's the big kind of thing.
And Baron, I'm glad you say we had to stay on track here, because it rings true, because we're about halfway through this right now. And one of the things, I think a major thing to talk about is, you know, you have release status, and there's nothing you can say about the release status is what it is. I'm not pinning you down on that one. What I do want to say from, now this is just me using the mouth of the community, right? This is not an actual me question, but I'm saying is, why isn't it out yet? Why? So the status report, the bugs, here's what's happening. If you can say, okay, this is the reason why we're not releasing it, this is the reason why it's not an open beta for you guys to do. What is that reason? What's the biggest thing stopping you guys from saying, like, here it is?
Yeah, so first, not even is it not. So first of all, it's so buggy, right? But not even is it just buggy, but we just have a nightmare building builds. Like, builds just crash, or like you load up a build and it's like the environment is invisible. It's like, okay, cool, you know, like, it's like, so it's not even like, oh man, this weapon has a pink texture. No, it's like you couldn't even play this. Like, and the reason this is happening, well, multiple reasons. First of all, it's a physics simulation sandbox, so it's hell, because you can never, you know, the way like in a normal game, it's like if you do an attack animation, it's like, okay, the attack animation is this. It's like, okay, is it good? Yeah, it's good. Okay, great, it's good. Move on.
Right.
But in this, it's like, okay, I can do a hand pose. Okay, cool. Did you try the hand pose, like lifting up this jug? It's like, oh yeah, it looks great. Did you try to hand pose doing a bow and arrow? Oh god, it's broken.
Right.
Did you try
Yep.
to hand pose, twisting upside down underwater? Oh god, and you just there's so many variables of what you
Yes.
can do in the game. So that's the first problem. The second problem is Thunder Road, our game engine, and this is why I'm bittersweet happy that we are on the final content update, because Thunder Road, it's what Cosby, it's the game framework that Cosby made when he first started, 5-6 years ago. And when he started, he literally was the first time developer. Now we have 30 people piling code on top of the game engine. It just wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? And it's like you started writing a book, and then as you go on, more authors come in and start writing. And then so when you get to the end, it's like, my writing style is all weird. And it's like, yeah, because you've 30 writers.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
tons of lessons learned, and this is something you and I have talked about before. It's like you add one tiny thing, and then suddenly you get because of spaghetti code, you get a bunch of regressive bugs. So it's like, let's say, oh, this attack animation is wonky. Oh, I know why. I know exactly why. I'll go fix it. And the person goes and fixes that bug, but what they didn't realize was fixing that bug creates three new bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dude, it's non-stop. So that's like the hell. It's like this hydra. It just keeps spawning heads. So that's a big problem we had too, and that's why it'll be good to kind of twilight Blade and Sorcery, stabilize it, then move on to game number 2.
Gotcha.
Bigger, better. We have a new Thunder Road game framework. I'm not gonna say done, but we're working on it. Yeah, Cosby was working on it, and it's so much better. It's like, it's so much better. It's so much faster. It's like all the issues we had with Blade and Sorcery resolved. And you could just do a lot more with it. We could just do a much more ambitious project. It'll be cleaner. It'll be faster. So we're all dying to move on to, a brand new game. It's going to be glorious.
Well, if I can say one specific thing about this right now, in the day and age we are in, year 2024 of, I don't know, the spinning meteor rock that we're in the game industry, most, not most, but there's, you're going to have critics on either side no matter what you do. You can't make anyone happy. But what I want to say to help you guys, an olive branch, an extension of defense, is that if you guys, what you just said, people will be like, wow, so you have Thunder Road 2. Why don't you just pause yourself and then go back in and remake Blade and Sorcery with your new stuff, then release it? And you're like, huh? But then, you could be like, yeah, but listen, we had promised in early access that we were going to get it to this point. And do this one with what we've built. So if you abandon that, you would have gotten criticized for abandoning something in early access and remaking it. But now you'll get criticized for like, hey, we have a new thing that could do a lot more, but we're still going to finish the other thing. So it's just like one hand, I don't even know, not watching or is watching the other, and you'll get criticism from either side.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you guys have done the right thing by finishing this project, even though you have obviously new technology and new techniques of doing stuff ahead of you that say, hey, wow, our next project, we could do this one. I just think for you guys, for Warp Frog, that is your progression mode. That is your crystal hunt.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
You finish for one project, then you get to do the next one.
Dude, 100%. And like, another thing too is I keep reading comments of people being like, oh my God, they can't believe they're abandoning the game after 1.0. It's like, that's how games, that's how video games are made. But it's not just that, but it's like, we would continue to release patches and stabilization and quality of life updates. It's just that there's not going to be any like massive content like
Crystal Hunt 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's but of course we keep polishing the game, stabilizing the game. But yeah, man, like I was joking earlier about like, sweating it, because even from a marketing point of view, it's like, this was a huge undertaking to keep the studio floating for a full year to work on a free update, and it's not like a expansion or anything like that. And I say that, but dude, unanimously, everyone at Warflog, Cosby, and me, without a shadow of doubt, we all agree, no, this is the 1.0 update. This is not an expansion. This is not Blade and Sorcery 2. This is the little love letter to all the players who supported us. The game was sandbox, and loved the game anyway. Left like really amazing reviews, really amazing comments. Dude, that's the most important thing. Like if you nickel and dime people Okay, you might do it, you might get away with it, and you might escape with a bag of money. But man, the fans don't forget,
No, of
and
course, yeah.
that studio gets tainted, and it's like we're not after a fast buck here. You know, we're playing the long game, so the fans are the most important part. So that's what this is about. Would we like to move on to a lovelier engine? Yes, yes, we
I
would.
feel you. I
But, but
understand.
I but no one at Warfrog is going to finish 1.0 and think we didn't do justice. You know what we set
Yeah,
out to do.
I agree. And like you said before, is your 1.0 is the final we built this house type of thing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think you said it in this update, the news update. They said, "Hey guys, we'll still add bug fixes and things that feel like something needs to be fixed."
100%. Yeah,
If you find, I just think back to U9. You guys are like, wow, look at the graphics we updated. Look what we did. Textures, bang, bang, boom. And then it was just like, wait a minute. So you're like, okay, hang on, we're gonna add. Or maybe it was U8. It was like, hey, we're going to fix this still. We're going to fix this. Now, granted, that's when it was in early access to be fixed. But this one
yeah,
coming out, you're not going to throw something up and someone's going to be like, hey, did you know that if you turn left, the whole game crashes? Like,
yeah.
of
Of
course,
course, of course, of course.
stuff like that will be fixed.
And also, like, I know the Warfrog team too well. Even though we say there's not going to be content updates, I
Uh,
wouldn't be surprised. But on paper, where the idea is that we just would bug fix, we'd stabilize quality of life things, like, so if we get feedback, hey, such and such is too difficult, or it'd be nice, would be this or that. A good example is, remember people saying, oh, it'd be nice if we could teleport from the beach to the house. That's like a quality of life thing. It's like, oh yeah, we can do that, like that kind of stuff.
So what you're saying is I can write down after Crystal Hunt, I can do Blade Sorcery 2.0, the Living Ocean update with pirates,
Yeah, yeah.
fish.
Yeah,
It's all there.
fishing.
Come on. I want
Yeah,
pirate. I want a
yeah.
floating boat. I want buoyancy. It's all
Yeah,
there.
I know. Yeah.
I have tons and tons of questions from the community, and the only hope of getting anywhere close to answering majority of them would have to be rapid fire, instant answers without
Yes.
going into more detail. Is that something
I
that you
will
can
try
accomplish?
It's my weakest aspect because I like long answers, but I'll try my best.
Okay, I'm literally going to machine gun them at you, and then once I
Yeah.
hear an answer, I'm going to move on to the next one for this lightning round, and then we'll
I will
close.
try
Does
my
that sound
best.
good? Here we go. First one is, will 1.0 be very optimized?
How do you mean? Very. As optimized as we can. Yeah.
As optimized as we can. I think they mean for both PC and Nomad. Nomad we haven't technically touched on yet. We'll do a
Right.
closing statement about Nomad, but
Sounds good. Yeah, yeah.
so let's
As
say
optimized as we can.
as optimized as they can. So someone mid-level PC, can they be like, wow, this game's optimized?
That's the hope, but obviously we'll try our best. But
Good. Next one is, are you going to give modders more tools or something in 1.0? For example, I'll skip the example, but will
Yeah.
modders have access to more in the SDK? I guess they want to know, like, can they do
Yeah,
more?
can I elaborate on this, because actually people will love this.
I will let you
Um,
elaborate. Yes.
So, we were working on the documentation for the SDK. It got put in the back burner because there's so much other crazy stuff going on. One of our community helpers, Lyrium, has actually made a dungeon mod, which is incredible. And he made it using the native tools. We're all super duper proud of him. And he was even saying maybe he could write up kind of a wiki for modders. That would be amazing, because then modders could start working on dungeon mods. And I just want to point out now, on the skill tree that we have, it's completely moddable.
Oh boy.
A modder could add their own custom skill tree. Like, let's say, in fact, Laneka literally is doing this. Even though he works on in the dev team, he's already making mods. Like, he has a dagger bending mod. It's a full skill tree. It works just like our skill tree. Same thing. You have a crystal. You put in the crystal, VFX. Like, it's nuts. So you can imagine if modders had, like, say, a collection of ice spells or wind spells or whatever crazy magic mods are out there, they could implement them into Crystal Hunt, and a player could play Crystal Hunt, and now suddenly there's a whole new skill branch.
And in
branches.
theory, they could apply those modded spells to NPCs if they wanted to. If they're like, you want to know what? Why not let this NPC cast Super Wind at you? Is there public testing for 1.0?
There's not.
Okay.
Do you want elaboration?
No.
Okay.
I'm sure people are going
Okay.
to yell at me for that, and I'm going to defend it
Okay.
real quick. Is
Okay.
I know there's enough. You guys currently don't need notes if you can't fix the core issues. So why invite a bunch of other people
That's
finding more things?
that's exactly
Another good one. Are you going to add more animal type NPCs? So we have a Jonathan, and that was the framework for something.
yeah. No, sadly no.
Okay,
There
so
is no
Jonathan
no
won't
no.
have any friends,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
sadly, yeah.
Oh, here's a good
Yeah.
one. This one, even if you don't, the word is going to be scrapped, but even if you don't define the word as scrapped, we'll see what you define it as. So someone says, what's the thing you're most disappointed to see scrapped or changed or not make it into the game?
Oh, that's a good question. So much, man, and it's not like I'm disappointed because it's like, we didn't do it. I'm just disappointed because if you and I have chatted many times, it's a simulation. So it's like there's so much you could do, and if it wasn't for the restrictions of the game framework and bugs and stuff like that, I wish you could just somehow go on to infinity, like fishing. That'd be great, and like have a physical fishing rod, and you can hunt fish with spears, and then you can put them over a fire, and they cook, and the rabbit hole doesn't end.
You're making me sad now, right, Barry?
Yeah, no, totally. It's the rabbit hole doesn't end, and that makes me sad because I know the rabbit hole doesn't end, and I know that with infinite time we could do, anything, but it just gets so messy. The framework just gets so messy, and the game gets so convoluted, and also, we got to move on. We got to do bigger things and stuff. So, I guess all I can say is that even though it makes me a little bit sad, there's bigger games coming from Warfrog, and we could do more elaborate things.
That's fair.
The next games will be better. Yeah.
That's fair. Moving on, someone says, this might be a dumb question, it's okay, but they say, will I have to buy Blade and Sorcery again if they already own it? Let's say if they own it on the PC world and 1.0 comes out, do they have to buy it again? If they own the Nomad version, it comes out in the Quest and Pico, do they have to buy it again if they've already owned it in early access?
That's not a dumb question because I've heard a couple of people asking that. No, it'll be, if you already own it, it's free.
Cool.
The one thing I will say, and I'm going to post this when I drop the trailer, is that when the game is fully released, the price is going to go up.
Yeah, I think you and we've spoke about this in public.
Yeah,
I think you guys,
yeah.
You haven't set a price, but you were thinking around the $40.
Do you know what? I can tell you now.
Yes, here we
30.
go. 30.
It's
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and we did that because we just didn't want it to be too expensive.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
So
I mean,
it's like, so the price, it goes up $10, but it's still cheaper than most games out there. And the vibe was like, hey, we still don't want to be like stupid priced.
Cool.
So
excellent.
that seems fair.
Next question is, how strong will you be at the end of Crystal Hunt?
Good question. It depends. If you were to just get to like the end of the game, in theory, you probably have like one skill tree fully maxed out and maybe a bit of another one. But you could also branch out and have a little bit of every skill tree and be a little bit good. But
can you have every skill? Can I?
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. I was going to say, if you were to just keep going in Crystal Hunt, which I know there's going to be like mad lads who do this, in theory, yes, you could get to a point where you have every single thing maxed out.
That's crazy. Which leads into the next question, though, of it is, how many skills are there in total?
Yeah, there's, last time I checked, and I need to just double check, there was 78. And that's what I was going to say. It's not only would you be just bananas overpowered, but it's gonna feel not even like Blade and Sorcery at a certain point, because you're gonna have so many like modification kind of things on your skill. Like the game is gonna even play different,
Wow.
like nothing's gonna work the way you're familiar with it working because you've got so much stuff going on, you know, that kind of thing. So that's kind of fun.
Okay. Another question is, why will mana be removed? I think you last spoke about this, saying like, hey, it's just not fun to run out of mana.
Yeah, I could go into this. This is a long answer, but the very short answer is exactly, yeah, it's not fun.
It's not fun to run out of mana. In your current testing, if you were able to test it, did you feel like having unlimited mana made you overpowered?
No, because there's a natural progression to Crystal Hunt.
Okay.
So like you start off, you're just going to get whipped around because you're going to have nothing. Now, when you get to the end of the game, okay, it's time to crack some skulls. You're going to be strong. At that point, the enemy is also throwing a lot of stuff at you. Okay. So they're tough also. So I'm not going to say that you're not going to be like really powerful by the end of the game. You will be because you'll have big spells. But in my view, it all balances out.
Cool. Someone asked, will Crystal Hunt have NPCs that you can quote unquote talk to?
No,
Okay.
no, it's not like an RPG. Yeah.
Next question was a funny one, but will the Baron hat be purchasable in Crystal Hunt?
It's an Easter egg item,
Okay.
and it's not where it's moved. It's not in the drawer, if you
Oh,
remember
okay, okay.
that.
I think I know where it is, but I'm not going to say. Someone said this is an interesting question. I don't. It's not really. I'll just ask it. It says, "Will graphics be improving?"
There is some. Well, first of all, just talking about PC because Nomad's not made yet, so I don't know. So on PC there is some changes. We have some VFX changes, but again, I need to like boot up U12 and see like where that left off. The guys are always pushing on lighting and stuff like that and environments. We have a new ocean, which I don't know if you can really see it in the clip, but you can kind of see it in the clip actually if you
Yes, I did see that one in the first
yeah,
Kong picture.
that's our own custom ocean we made to just have our own solution there. So that's cool. I don't know. I think I would need players to tell me like what looks different because I'm so immersed in 1.0 for the past year.
That's fair. How will the sandbox maps work in the progression mode if they are included?
A fine question. I don't know if I should spoil it.
Okay.
Well, I think it's okay to say. I think it's okay to say because I mentioned in the news. You know, when in the news you're choosing to go to these, you have a selection of outposts you go to, and they might have like different factions and stuff like that. And you're doing this to gain intel, and all that intel is contributing towards discovering a Dalgarian. If you didn't want to do that, every now and again you have an option to go to an arena map, and this would be like this could also have a whatever faction, and you wouldn't gain any intel from it, but you could gain other things from it.
Like okay. That's
gold
cool.
or whatever, you know. Yeah.
So that actually leads into this question here: is in Crystal Hunt will areas like the Market and Citadel be populated, quote unquote, like a Skyrim-esque, or just empty?
Not like a Skyrim, no, not like NPCs walking around. It'd be more like sandbox mode, if any.
So Baron, there are tons of questions here, and I realize there's no chance of being able to get to any of them. So Baron said if he has time, he will stop by in the comment section on this video. This video actually comes out on Wednesday, May 8th. So if Baron does have time, and you guys have normal questions that aren't like, where's multiplayer, how does milk taste, don't ask him stupid questions. Ask him stuff that he has very limited time to answer. This so real questions, hopefully get them in the YouTube section. Baron will stop by when he can to answer those. But I want to give an in closing before Baron has to go into the land of Warp Frog. I do want to give a bow tie situation around Nomad right from the source. Baron, Mr. Baron, what can you tell us currently about the situation with Nomad from, I guess, where it is, how it's going, when do you expect it to stay on par with PC, stuff like that?
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm actually glad to mention this because a couple of people asked. So we don't have a clue. We haven't worked on Nomad yet. So traditionally, how the game works is because we split the games as two separate games, we did this so that the PC VR version would never be tethered by what Nomad could achieve. You know, so Nomad is a 4-quest game. Like the Sorcery is a 4 PC game. So the way it works is we make the PC game. We do it whatever the hell we want. And then when we get to the end, we say, okay, time to port over to Nomad. And then we do our best to port everything. In the past, it's been pretty good. We've gotten like 99% of the stuff ported over. And it usually doesn't take too long, maybe like a week or something. It's like, that's pretty good, you know? With 1.0, okay, it's definitely going to be different because this update is just nuts. All those spells are going to need custom VFX to work on Quest. All those dungeon rooms, they're absolutely massive. Like I have a real heart attack about it because we have to port them over to Nomad. But I don't know how long that's going to take, but it's significant. It's going to be, I'm going to say months. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm guessing months. But the one thing I will say, if it makes anyone feel better about it, is the reason it would take so long is because we're trying to port everything. We're trying to port it 1-to-1 so that even though it looks graphically different, it looks like a Quest game versus PC game, at least you'll get all the same content and it'll be free. So if it does end up taking us a bunch of time, please know that we're doing our best to do it, and we're only taking our time to do it because we're trying to port every goddamn thing in this ridiculously big update. And that's it.
Yeah, especially because not only is there a Quest 2, there's a Quest 3 now, and there's a Quest Pro. Most people having the Quest 2, it's not that you want to make an upgraded Quest 3 version and abandon 2, or if you make an upgraded Quest 3 version, that means there's now 3 versions of the game. There's Nomad, Quest 2, Quest 3, and then PC VR. So you're in a tough situation there for sure.
Exactly. And the Quest 2, you know, like the Quest 3 is pretty good, you know. The Quest 2 is really the kind of the troublesome one, because that's the one that has the specs that are the trickiest. And if you push it too hard, it crashes. Yeah. And the game being a physics sandbox, you just never know in what way, you know, you're going to push the game. So that's the one that gives us a lot of trouble. But nonetheless, there's Quest 2 players, we got to support it. So we want to make sure we do our best to get all the content over for those guys.
Well, Baron, thank you, my friend, so much for stopping by. Like I said, there's tons of questions, really good ones that I even get to answer. Unfortunately, I hope that those people that their questions didn't get answered leaves a comment on the video. I'll see it. I'll try to ping them. Even if Baron can't stop by, I'll send him a DM of like the best ones. Anything else you want to say? Is there like another surprise feature? Anything? Is there boss battles?
There is surprises. And you know me, I'm tight-lipped. I won't say it. But thanks, man, for the chat. It's a tradition now. And yeah, totally. If you want to compile a bunch of questions, DM them to me. I'll leave a comment on your YouTube video and I'll get back to people.
Excellent. Cool. Well, everyone, that has been the newest interview with Baron. Baron is the community manager, right? That's still the title, community manager?
Actually, no, man. It's for a long time. It hasn't been. And it's funny because people always think I'm a community manager, but Deadly Kitten has been a community manager for about 2 years now.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, I've moved on. I've had many hats at Warfrog. I've been producer,
resident mascot, right? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, that's what it is for community manager. But public relations is my
PR.
Broad.
Yeah,
that's my broad overarching things. But I do a lot of things at Warfrog nowadays.
So this has been Baron that does a lot of things at Warfrog nowadays. Thanks so much, everyone. Make sure if you're new, subscribe, YouTube, all that fun stuff. But thanks for stopping by. We will see you next time. Right, Baron?
Indeed.
Okay, bye.